What happens when the man who signs every paycheck walks into the warehouse in steel-toe boots, and no one knows his name? Yorick Kellan had inherited the chain of 9 warehouse distribution centers 3 years ago after his father passed away. He was 38, sharp with numbers but unsure with people. His dad had built the empire from scratch. Yorick had kept it running. Profits were steady, but something felt off. Complaints hadn't stopped rolling in, not from customers but employees. Turnover in 2 of the warehouses had tripled. Reports kept blaming workload stress and personal reasons, but Yorick wasn't buying it. He wanted to see it for himself. He picked the 3rd warehouse, Midville. It wasn't the worst performing one, but it had the highest turnover rate. He'd never met the warehouse staff. Most of them probably didn't even know what he looked like. The company was big enough for that. Yorick dyed his hair a darker brown, added subtle gray streaks to his beard, and wore thick-rimmed glasses. He'd been training with a warehouse vet from another location for 2 weeks under a fake name, Joe, from a temp agency. When he showed up at Midville on a Monday morning in a second-hand hoodie and steel-toe boots, no one blinked twice. The warehouse manager, Vince, barely gave him a glance. "Put him with the inbound crew," he muttered to Dee Short for Daedra, one of the floor leads. She gave Yorick a nod, tight-lipped. "Let's go, newbie. Hope you don't cry, easy." He followed her through rows of pallets and forklifts humming by. His first few hours were quiet. He helped unload 2 trucks, stacked boxes, kept his head down. He moved slower than the others, but no one seemed to care until lunch. Dee shoved open the break room door, letting it slam behind her. "Start of lunch," she called out. 15 minutes, don't take 16. People filed in. Yorick sat near the vending machine and peeled open a protein bar. That's when he noticed the tension. A younger guy, maybe 19, sat alone near the corner, hood halfway up. He looked exhausted. His name tag read Kyle. Every few seconds, he glanced nervously toward the table where 3 older employees sat: Dee, another woman named Carla, and a tall guy with a shaved head named Wayne. Wayne suddenly called out, "Hey, Kyle. You forget how to use a dolly again today, or just pretending you're slow?" Carla laughed, mouth full of chips. "Betty's still scared of the freezer section. Baby can't handle -10. Dee didn't laugh. She just said, he shouldn't even be on inbound. Should have stayed on trash duty where he belongs. Kyle looked down at his sandwich. Yorick's stomach turned. No one said anything. A few workers glanced over but didn't speak. Kyle muttered, "I did everything by the checklist." Wayne cut him off. "Checklist? You think we got time to babysit your checklist? This is a warehouse, not your mommy's basement." Yorick's jaw clenched, but he stayed quiet. He needed to understand the whole picture. After lunch, Dee assigned Kyle and Yorick to the same loading dock. When they were out of earshot, Yorick asked, "You okay?" Kyle shrugged. "Yeah, just how they are. I'm new." "How long you been here?" 4 months. Yorick blinked. "That's not new." Kyle gave a half smile, but his eyes were tired. "Still the newest on the shift, though. Everyone else either quits or gets transferred." That night, Yorick sat in his rental car for a long time before driving out. He didn't sleep well. The next morning, it got worse. Wayne accidentally knocked over Kyle's stacked pallets. Dee told Kyle to clean it up while the rest of the crew moved on. Carla barked at him to hurry the hell up while he scrambled to restack everything alone. Yorick helped him. No one said thank you. At the end of the shift, Vince strolled in from the office, looked at Kyle's area and said, "Still the worst numbers. You're lucky we're short-staffed or I'd have cut you already." Kyle didn't respond, but Yorick saw the way his hands tightened into fists and then slowly let go. By Wednesday, Yorick had seen enough. Dee was efficient but cold. Carla spent half her shift gossiping by the lockers. Wayne barked orders but did the least physical labor. All 3 of them took turns mocking Kyle or whoever else wasn't in their circle, but Kyle. Kyle showed up early, stayed late, and followed every safety rule. He was fast, sharp, and kind. When a new girl named JC joined midweek, he was the only one who explained how to use the scanner properly, and they mocked him for that too. Yorick stood in the bathroom that night staring at himself in the mirror. His shoulder ached, he had blisters. He looked tired, older than he had in years. But he also felt something he hadn't in a long time: purpose. He wasn't leaving until he fixed this, not from the top floor. From the ground. Thursday started at 5:52 a.m. with 2 trucks already at the dock and Vince nowhere in sight. Dee looked irritated and didn't explain much beyond. Just unload till the second shift gets in. Don't break anything. She handed out assignments in clipped tones, then walked off to talk to Wayne by the back staircase. Neither of them touched a box. Kyle was already on the dock, hands wrapped with athletic tape. He didn't say much, just nodded at Yorick and started breaking down the first pallet. His eyes looked even more sunken than the day before. Yorick joined him silently. They worked through the first truck without talking. Mid-morning, Carla showed up half an hour late, holding a breakfast burrito in one hand and her phone in the other. She walked straight past the inbound line and went into the office without checking in. No one questioned her. Around 10 o'clock a.m., a box split open on the conveyor. It had been overloaded, 28 units stacked when the limit was clearly 20. Kyle caught it before it tipped, but 2 of the units still tumbled and cracked open. "Get that cleaned up," Dee barked from 20 feet away, not even looking up from her clipboard. Kyle crouched, started gathering the pieces. Yorick helped him. Wayne passed by and let out a loud, exaggerated sigh. "Maybe if you didn't pack like a toddler, this wouldn't happen." Kyle didn't answer. He just kept picking up the shards with his gloves on. Yorick straightened up. "Actually," he said, "the overpacking came from the supplier, not him. It's labeled wrong." Wayne turned, clearly thrown off. "What?" Yorick pointed at the inventory code on the side of the box. "This is a bulk pack order. It shouldn't be on this line at all." Wayne scoffed but didn't argue. He walked off. Kyle stood, brushing off his gloves. "Thanks, but it doesn't matter. They'll still call it my fault." Yorick looked toward the office. Carla was still inside with Vince. It had been over 20 minutes. "Is she in there often?" he asked. Kyle gave a small nod. "Usually before lunch. Vince likes her running admin checks." Yorick didn't ask more. He didn't need to. At lunch, a newer employee named Esme joined their table. She was quiet but sharp, and she brought her own notebook to track loading numbers. Kyle introduced her, and she barely looked up from her notes. "You track your own metrics?" Yorick asked. "Only way to prove anything around here," she said, flipping a page. "Last week my numbers were off and Vince said I was making it up. I showed him timestamps. He said it was too much attitude and reassigned me to freezer shift." Kyle gave a small shake of his head. "She did 2 extra pallets that day too, still got moved." Yorick felt the pressure building in his chest. The pattern was clear: favoritism, retaliation, no accountability. Back on the floor after lunch, things escalated. Wayne was supposed to be supervising the outbound truck, but instead he leaned against a stack of crates, scrolling through his phone. A newer hire, Darnell, asked where to place a damaged pallet. "Put it with the rest of the crap," Wayne mumbled, not looking up. "There's no space in the return section." Wayne finally looked up, annoyed. "Then figure it out. You need me to hold your hand." Darnell hesitated. "You told me yesterday that everything needed to be scanned before it was moved." Wayne stepped forward till he was an inch from Darnell's face. "And now I'm telling you to move it. You got a problem with that?" That was enough. Yorick dropped the pack he was carrying and walked over. "There's no reason to speak to him like that," he said. Wayne turned, smirking like he was about to enjoy this. "You his lawyer now? Just someone who knows how to read a policy manual," Yorick replied. Wayne looked him up and down, then turned to Darnell. "You know what? Take a break. Come back when you remember who's in charge." Yorick stared at him. "He's doing his job, you're not." Wayne's eyes narrowed. "You want to get written up too?" Yorick didn't answer. He just turned and walked to the front office. Inside, Carla was still sitting with Vince. She was laughing at something on his computer screen. Vince looked up. "You can't come in here." "I'm going to," Yorick said calmly, "and you're going to listen." Vince stood slowly. "You want to lose your short-term contract?" Yorick looked directly at Carla. You've been on the clock for 40 minutes without doing anything related to your assigned role. Carla's smile disappeared. Excuse me? I've timed it. You've been in here every morning avoiding labor while others take on your share. Wayne is doing the same thing. And Dee's letting it happen. Vince stepped in. I don't know who you think you are. Yorick reached into his back pocket and slowly pulled out his badge. Not the fake one. The real one. The one with the company name, his real name, and the words owner printed in the top right corner. Vince went pale. Carla's mouth parted slightly, but no words came. I've been working this warehouse for 4 days, Yorick said, voice low and steady. And in that time, I've seen employees harassed, overworked, ignored, and lied to. I've watched 3 of your senior staff do less work than anyone else while verbally abusing those who actually care about their jobs. Vince stammered. If there was a misunderstanding, there wasn't. Yorick turned to Carla. You're relieved of duty. Effective immediately, she stood flustered. You can't just I can, and I just did. He turned to Vince. You're next. Get out of my building. Vince's eyes widened. You're firing me. Yorick didn't blink. You've allowed a culture of intimidation and neglect to grow under your oversight. You've undermined good employees and protected toxic ones. You're not fit to manage a team, let alone a warehouse. Go clean out your office. Carla slammed the door on her way out. Yorick stood in silence for a moment, then walked straight to the warehouse floor. He found Dee talking to Esme, pointing at a clipboard. Dee, he said. She turned, annoyed. What now? I'm the owner, he said. You're fired. For the first time all week, she had nothing to say. She turned and left without a word. Yorick gathered the remaining staff near the loading dock. I need you all to listen for a minute, he said, voice steady. He took off his glasses. The warehouse was quiet. My name is Yorick Kellan. I own this company. I've been working beside you all week under a different name because I needed to see what was really happening here. A few people gasped. Others just stared. I saw things I never should have seen. Good people getting torn down, hard workers being ignored. And leadership that stopped leading a long time ago. He looked at Kyle. You've been showing up early, helping others, doing the work of 2 people, and you've been treated like a problem instead of an asset. That ends today. He turned to Darnell. You stood up for policy when you should have been supported. That matters to me. Then to Esme. You tracked your own output because you couldn't trust your supervisors. That's unacceptable, and I'm going to fix it. He took a breath. I've dismissed 3 people today. There may be more changes coming, but I want every single one of you to know this. If you work hard, treat people right, and follow the rules, you will be supported. Period. A long silence followed, then Kyle's voice, quiet but strong. So, what now? Yorick nodded. Now we rebuild. Together. No one applauded, no one clapped him on the back, but no one walked away either. And that was enough for now. By Friday morning, the warehouse floor was restless. Word had spread. No one said it out loud, but the tension in the air was thick and undeniable. With Vince, Dee, and Carla gone, the structure that had held the dysfunction together had collapsed overnight. Some employees looked cautiously hopeful. Others seemed frozen, unsure if the ground under them was stable or about to crack again. Yorick had arrived early, earlier than anyone else, and stood alone at the center of the dock as the staff filtered in. He wore the same hoodie and boots, but his posture had changed. No disguise now, just presence. He didn't raise his voice, didn't call for attention. He waited until the last worker had clocked in before speaking. We're going to keep running this warehouse, he said. But not the way it was run before. I'll be here all day and I'll be working the floor with you. Until we hire a new manager, I'm the manager. No one challenged him. He grabbed a clipboard and assigned tasks, not with barked orders but with direct requests. When someone hesitated, he explained why it mattered. And when Esme flagged a miscount on the overnight inventory sync, he didn't wave it off. He sat down next to her and helped her correct it. At 9:30 a.m., the real challenge walked through the front door. Tessa, the regional HR lead, had arrived from corporate. She wasn't smiling. Yorick met her at the front table, away from the floor. You didn't tell me you were going undercover, she said flatly. I needed to see it with my own eyes. You've terminated 3 people in 4 days. That's a legal concern, Yorick, especially if it wasn't documented properly. He nodded. We're documenting it now. I brought in legal last night. Everything's being filed. Tessa paused, then lowered her voice. Look, I'm not saying they didn't deserve termination, but this kind of shake-up, if done wrong, can make instability worse. You've got people scared, and if we don't stabilize this fast, we'll lose more good workers. I agree, he said. That's why I'm staying, she blinked. You mean here? Here, on the floor, until I know we have leadership I can trust. Tessa studied him. You're serious. He nodded once. She folded her arms. Then we start damage control. I'll schedule one-on-ones with every full-time staff member. You get me their shift logs and metrics. Already printed, he said, handing her a folder. She opened it, eyebrows raised. You did this yourself last night. Tessa gave a short, almost reluctant nod. All right, let's fix it. By noon, the rhythm of the warehouse had changed. Kyle was assigned to audit incoming pallets with Esme. Yorick watched from a distance as they reviewed discrepancies, cross-checking labels with handheld scanners. Kyle's posture was different now, less guarded, more focused. When Esme pointed out a labeling error from a supplier, he didn't freeze up. He asked questions, took notes, and flagged the issue upstream. JC, the new hire, worked the packing station. She was fast, efficient, and methodical. Yorick noticed how she placed a small folded towel under her scanner to keep it from slipping, a simple fix no one had shown her, yet she'd figured it out herself. When a seal on a bulk box split, she didn't panic. She called for support, documented the lot number, and isolated the damage. That kind of initiative didn't come from nowhere. It came from being allowed to breathe. By mid-afternoon, a new problem surfaced. A shipment from the Easton supplier arrived half-wrapped and improperly labeled. The driver, frustrated and behind schedule, tried to push the load through without full check-in. It's not our job to fix their mistake, he grumbled, waving at the damaged barcode. Kyle, now working intake, hesitated. He looked at Yorick. Yorick walked over. We're not accepting it without full scan verification. I don't have time for this, the driver said, pulling out his phone. I'll mark it as refused and send it back. Yorick didn't argue. Do what you need to, but next time tell your dock lead to label it right. You're wasting your own time. The driver shook his head and walked off, muttering under his breath. Yorick turned to Kyle. You handled that right, Kyle exhaled. I wasn't sure you were. You just haven't been allowed to trust yourself. Later that afternoon, Tessa returned from her one-on-ones looking worn but determined. They weren't exaggerating, she said quietly. This place was run like a clique. If you weren't in the inner circle, you were disposable. Yorick didn't respond right away. He was watching JC switch crates with Darnell without being asked. They were communicating wordlessly, shoulders turning, hands pointing, tasks shifting seamlessly. No one had trained them to do that. They'd just figured it out. What do you want to do long-term? Tessa asked. He turned to her. We don't just replace managers, we change how we hire them. We build an internal leadership track. People like Esme, Kyle, JC, they're the future. Not outsiders who show up and run things like personal fiefdoms. She hesitated. You sure about that? Internal promotions come with their own risks. Familiarity can breed resentment. Only if we don't train, support, and hold them accountable. That's on us. Tessa looked at the floor, then back at him. All right, I'll draft a proposal. As the final shift wound down, Yorick gathered the team near the break area. This time, he didn't rehearse his words, he just spoke. I know today wasn't perfect. We're short on staff and some of you took on more than usual, but I saw something shift, not just in how we worked, but how we moved, how we treated each other. He looked at JC. You solved problems without waiting for someone to tell you how, to Esme. You caught errors that saved us from a bad inventory cycle, to Darnell. You kept your composure when others wouldn't have, and Kyle, you stood your ground. That matters more than you know. No one clapped. They didn't need to. As people returned to their stations to finish the closing tasks, Yorick remained at the dock, watching. The hum of forklifts, the shuffle of crates, the low murmur of radio chatter, it all felt different now. Not louder, not quieter, just real. Tessa walked up beside him. "You're staying tomorrow too?" "Yes, it's Saturday, I know." She gave him a look, not annoyed, just curious. "You really think this place can change?" "It already has," he said. "Now we just have to protect it." He didn't need to be thanked. He wasn't here for that. He was here because leadership wasn't a title, it was a choice. One he hadn't made often enough. Until now, Yorick arrived before sunrise again. This time, he didn't park in the far lot like he had during his undercover days. He parked in the manager's designated space, stepped out in the same hoodie and boots, and walked through the side entrance. It was quiet inside, just the low mechanical hum of the refrigeration units and the soft shuffle of one of the janitorial staff, Hector, mopping near the loading bay. "Morning," Yorick said as he passed. Hector glanced up. "You back again?" "I am." "You running the place now?" "For now," Yorick replied. Hector gave a small nod and went back to his work. Yorick moved toward the office and unlocked the door Vince had left behind. It was still half-full, papers left in drawers, a coffee mug with a chipped rim, the office chair worn and squeaky. He didn't sit. Instead, he cleared the desk, boxed up the loose files and mugs, and placed a handwritten note on top. "Final check sent Tuesday." Building forward. By 6 o'clock, the early shift had started trickling in. Esme arrived first, then Darnell, followed by JC and a handful of temps who'd been brought in to cover the gaps. Kyle, wearing a clean blue hoodie and looking more alert than Yorick had seen him all week, walked in last. He carried a clipboard under one arm and a rolled-up diagram, something technical. It wasn't company-issued. "What's that?" Yorick asked, motioning to the roll as Kyle approached. Kyle hesitated. I stayed late yesterday and measured some of the shelving in the back corner. The way it's stacked, we lose about 2 feet per row to spacing. I drew up a fix." Yorick took the diagram, unrolled it on the nearest table. It was neatly sketched, with accurate scale and labeled dimensions. "You did this last night?" "Yeah, I know it's not my job, but it's smart," Yorick said. "We'll test it Monday. You'll walk the new supervisor through it." Kyle blinked. "We're getting a new one already. I'm not going to run this place forever, but we're not hiring from outside this time. We're promoting from within. You're on that track if you want it." "I do," Kyle said, quietly but without hesitation. Yorick nodded once. "Then earn it. Not just with work, how you carry others, too." By 8 o'clock, operations were moving. The warehouse was still under strain. With 3 experienced staff gone, every station was absorbing extra pressure. The temp workers were capable but unfamiliar with the layout. JC stepped in to guide 2 of them through outbound scanning. Esme was reassigning carts to routes to shorten travel time between stations. Darnell flagged a misrouted pallet and rerouted it without needing permission. The work was heavier, but something had shifted. No one was watching their back for sabotage. No one was throwing insults across the room. And for the first time in a long while, no one was afraid to ask a question. Just before lunch, Yorick stepped aside to take a call from the company's legal team. The internal reports had been filed. The terminations were legally sound. No appeals were coming. He glanced through the window at the floor where Esme was walking a temp through the barcode scanner menu. He returned to the floor and called a brief huddle. "I know it's been a heavy week," he said. "I know we lost people who'd been here a long time, but we didn't lose integrity. We're rebuilding it." He looked around the group, about 18 people, all tired but listening. "Starting Monday, I'm assigning 3 leads, not because they asked for it, because they earned it." He turned to Esme. "You'll oversee inventory accuracy and cross-checking." To JC. "You'll lead outbound, training included." And then to Kyle. "You'll shadow me for 4 weeks. After that, you'll run intake and scheduling." There were no cheers, just solemn nods. That was enough. After the announcement, people went back to work, quieter than before but more deliberate. The choices Yorick had made were registering now. Not everyone agreed with every decision, but they knew someone was finally paying attention. By early afternoon, a new issue cropped up. One of the temp workers, a man in his early 30s named Rico, was struggling to lift a box off the third shelf. He'd misjudged the weight and the corner gave. The box tilted, nearly falling. Darnell caught it just in time. "You good?" he asked. Rico winced and flexed his shoulder. "Didn't think it was that heavy," JC approached. "That's a floor 2 box. You're not certified for ladder lifts." "They said to grab whatever's on the list," Rico said. Kyle walked over. "Who told you that?" Rico looked past him. "One of the other temps." Yorick stepped in. "Which one?" Rico pointed toward a man near the far wall. Yorick walked there directly. "Name?" "Marcus," the man said. "You've worked warehouses before?" "Couple of them." "You gave someone a floor 2 pull without checking their clearance," Marcus shrugged. "Didn't think it was a big deal." "He looked strong." Yorick didn't waste time. "You're done here. Take your vest off and clock out." Marcus laughed once like it was a joke. Yorick didn't move. "You're serious?" "Very," Yorick said. "We don't gamble with safety here, not yours." "Not anyone else's." Marcus tossed the vest at a bench and walked off. No one said a word. Rico sat down near the break room, rubbing his shoulder. JC brought him a cold compress from the first aid kit. No one told her to, she just did it. That night, Yorick stayed behind again, not to work. Just to watch the end-of-day reset. Shelves were restacked, equipment cleaned, the floor swept. Kyle stayed to help Hector finish the last section of the dock. Darnell checked the gate locks twice. Esme updated the inventory sheet and left a note for the morning shift. JC passed Yorick on her way out. "You're not staying every night, are you?" she asked. "Not every night," she paused. "It's better now, still hard, still messy, but better," he nodded. "We'll keep moving it forward." She hesitated, then added, "I didn't think people like you noticed people like us." "I didn't," Yorick said. "That was the problem." She left without another word. He stood alone in the warehouse until the lights shut off row by row, the motion sensors timing out. The silence that followed wasn't heavy. It was clean. By Monday, the new leads would begin. A new hiring pipeline would be drafted. Every warehouse across the chain would receive an updated conduct policy, zero-tolerance language included. Regional managers would be retrained. Metrics would be audited quarterly, and every floor worker would be invited to anonymous reviews of their supervisors. But tonight, there was nothing left to fix, not in this building. Yorick walked out through the same door he'd entered, boots echoing softly on the concrete. He didn't look back. He didn't need to. When leadership stops being seen, it stops being real. He wouldn't make that mistake again.